Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, or, if you want to call me, Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Origins for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we've essentially completed the second game in this entire compilation, and that's what appears to be Sonic the Hedgehog CD. And speaking of Sonic CD, we did somehow manage able to win through the final 3 zones in that game, which appears to be by the forms of not only Wacky Workbench, my least favorite zone in that game, but also with the forms of Stardust Speedway, in this case my favorite zone in the entire game of Sonic CD, and finally Metallic Madness. So as a result though, and also we did somehow beat the likes of the forms of Metal Sonic in the actual race, so yeah, you probably get the idea of how that's gonna turn out to be. So, and as a result, also we've got ourselves the best ending on that game. So yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything. So today, for this video, is the fact the matter is though, we are now moving on to the third game in this entire compilation, and this time we're going to be hit on to everyone else's fan favorite, Sonic the Hedgehog game, and that is of course, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So as a result though, this is where we meet up with Tails for the first time, and as a result of that kind of stuff though, that relatively speaking though about the fact that we do realize that we actually stumbled across those other 2 Fox-like characters that like to able to mess around with the forms of Tails' tails. And gee, that does remind me of one of those references from the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 when Tails has been mentioned. Well, spoiler alert for those who have not seen the film yet, but I'm probably not gonna spoil the ending still. That's only mainly because that film has been out for about, I would classify for saying for like 10 months for now. So, basically what I'm trying to say here is that one of his lines in particular did say that, I've almost thought that my 2 tails were weird. So as a result though, that might be some consumption I can probably explain about. So, anyway, so you probably get the idea about the fact that what today's videos are going to be. Well, obviously we're about to get started with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in Sonic Origins. And just like in forms of how it does it on, oh wow, looks like I can finally manage to keep the amount of rings as I possibly can now. So, I'll explain more details on that in a moment. So, as you can tell, differently this time around though, compared to the forms of how it does it back in 2017 version of that particular Let's Play, that as you can tell, we've now have Tails in our side. So, as you can tell, obviously, the entire version of Sonic 2 and Sonic Origins, much like the forms of Sonic 1 and Sonic CD. This is entirely based off from the likes of in 2013 Christian Whitehead version. So because of that though, well technically Sonic CD Christian Whitehead version came out in 2011, but I'm just saying about the fact that, well, as you can tell, since we're now diving into the special stages again, except now that everything else looks a lot smoother this time around, and to make matters even easier compared to the forms of how it does it on the original counterpart, is that the draw distance is actually a lot better. In addition to that, Tails' AI is actually a massive improvement over the likes of how it does in the original counterpart. So as a result though, pretty much a definitive version of this particular special stages now, especially concerning about the fact that you can now able to experience this on multiple consoles, including Nintendo Switch. So relatively speaking now, everything else will be pretty swell, I have to say. Speaking of something related to Sonic games, relatively speaking, well, actually I'll get into more details onto that during a future time though, but either way though, well, chances are though, yeah, today's date of course is the 25th of February today, in this case in 2023 today. Naturally speaking, we're getting very close towards the end of February before we move on to March. So relatively speaking though, I'll get into more details about the forms of some details they did somehow point things out during the forms event today. But first off, as you can tell, not able to actually access the special stages though is that once you collect about 50 rings, and then if you find any checkpoints at all, basically the actual sparkle that goes like the actual ring formation, starts able to sparkle, and it's up to you to able to dive right into the actual sparkle bit on top of the checkpoint, and that way you can able to actually enter in the special stage. You know, before when Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles managed to have the exact same system, except, well, obviously it's been replaced by bonus games instead of special stages, because, well, we'll point it out and during at some point until next weekend, so... But either way, we'll pretty much guarantee we're able to save that conversation until for later, so... And obviously, as you probably already noticed about the fact that the first zone in Sonic 2, which is of course Emerald Hill Zone, which is basically Green Hill Zone, but a lot more colorful and brighter. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, I really still enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog 2 nowadays, especially noticeable because of how colorful this game can be, and especially to make matters even better, I can finally play this game on the go. Well, technically speaking though, there was multiple versions of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, just like in Sonic the Hedgehog 1. So as a result though, you can able to actually play the game on the go on the PSP, and also say applies to the forms of the Nintendo DS as well. And even especially noticeable with the forms of the 3DS version on the 3D version of it, and now on the Nintendo Switch, for not only for the Sega Ages lineup, but also on the NSO expansion, which it plays out pretty much exactly like the forms of how it does in the original version. And now we actually have ourselves the remastered version thanks to Sonic Origins compilation, which I still find is a bit weird that Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was not included on the NSO expansion yet, but I'm guessing it's probably because it might felt a bit archaic in comparison to the forms of how it does it on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or something. Well, I haven't exactly brought this out yet, because as a result of that kind of stuff though, I'll explain more details onto that specific topic during any future time. So either way, 3 Chaos Emeralds in and only 4 more to go, because as you probably already noticed, I'm going to be doing exactly the same formation as in not only for the likes of the back in 2017 version of that particular Let's Play of Sonic 2, but also say applies with Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 back in 2020 as well. I'm going to be going after all 7 of these Chaos Emeralds in one zone. That is, of course, Emerald Hill Zone. So hopefully I'll also get my chance to able to do that, especially you get multiple chances that you can able to get Chaos Emeralds from. So, as you can tell, if you manage to able to score for about 10,000 points onto your score count in the actual ending results screen in each act, basically you get yourselves 3 bonus coins instead of 1, unlike the forms of how it does it in Sonic CD. So we're going back into 3 bonus coins you can somehow obtain since in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 in Sonic Origins, which can be also same applies for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. What if we get to that and during that next weekend, as far as I mentioned this earlier. So, but either way though, not much else to talk about, aside from the fact that the only massive differences between the original version of Sonic 2 than the likes of the Christian Whitehead version of this game is that obviously with widescreen and everything, and also much like the forms of how it does it in Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, in this entire compilation you're still able to actually access to drop dash and everything. Although generally speaking though, that's usually it seems to be the case, because relatively speaking though, well, back in the Sega Ages version on the Nintendo Switch version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, you can still technically able to actually access to drop dash if you wanted to. I mean, relatively speaking though, it might be pretty difficult to explain, because I know for a fact that it's been 6 days ago since we've actually last touched this game, but relatively speaking though, that might be classified able to mention about that particular stuff for that matter. So here we go onto the 4th special stage as we go. So as to be expected that the special stages might get a bit difficult, especially how to memorize every single layout of the entire special stages itself. But again, luckily, if you do somehow manage to fail at one point in the special stage, obviously you can use coins to able to retry them. But either way though, because chances are though, that might actually be, you know, pretty worth it if you manage to able to go ahead and try again and stuff like that. Whilst, if you ever play on classic mode, you have to try a different checkpoint or a different zone for that matter. So relatively speaking though, everything else will be pretty much accounted for, so... And also keep that in mind though, is that, yeah, relatively speaking about the fact that this particular version of Sonic 2 still has multiplayer, but except now you can actually able to have the ability to actually access to 8 zones instead of 4. So that was actually a pretty cool expansion to it, especially noticeable concerning about the fact that the only zones you can't do multiplayer, which are Sky Chase Zone, as well as Wing Fortress Zone, and especially noticeable for Death Egg Zone, just because it's for Sonic only controlled only. So, plus because Tails was on the plane the whole time between the forms of not only Sky Chase Zone, but also with Wing Fortress as well. Which I'm sure you probably already know what Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is all about anyway, so everything else will be pretty much expectable too. So, and as to be expected, we're now going back on to collecting Chaos Emeralds instead of Time Stones, because we've already got all the Time Stones in Sonic CD. So, we naturally speaking, if we do somehow manage able to obtain all 7 of those Chaos Emeralds, then obviously we're able to become ourselves the most powerful thing in the world. Well, relatively speaking though, you probably already know what's to come. So, but either way, I just really love the actual sprite animation with that particular text font that's saying start and gets a certain amount of rings that goes all like spirally stuff and everything, because relatively speaking, like I said before, this is based off from the 2013 Christian Whitehead version back on the iPhone devices, because relatively speaking though, about the fact of the matter is though, and luckily though, you can still able to get that game for free on the actual smartphones, which is always good, especially thanks to the forms of Seiko Forever selection. So, but either way though, everything else will be expected. So, then of course you can still play as Knuckles in this game, so as a result though, nothing different between the forms of not only the lock-on cartridge technology from the original cartridge from the likes of not only Sonic 2, but also Sonic and Knuckles with it as well, but also you can able to actually play as him in any forms of the Christian Whitehead version as well, concerning about the fact that Knuckles is potentially the hard mode of the game just because of all its limitations and stuff like that. So, anywho, so a few things I want to explain while this is going on is that, relatively speaking, I will try my best to able to actually complete a certain amount of zones for this particular part, but, I mean, relatively speaking, because back in the forms have been, well, it's a bit difficult to explain, because I know for a fact that, again, it's been 6 days ago since we've actually last touched this game. So, either way, there's our 5th Chaos Emerald, so only 2 more to go. So, I think, relatively speaking, also, since that this is the Sonic Origins version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, now we can able to actually fly with Tails. So, as a result, whilst unlike the original version of the game, you can't normally do that back in the day. And also, after completing the special stage in Sonic Origins version of the game, as you notice, your ring count has now kept safe this time around, which, honestly, that's actually a massive improvement over the likes of how it does it back in the forms have been, well, as I say, on the original version, because in the original version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, well, if you finish the special stage, and then basically though, your ring counts will restart back to 0, which also means about the fact that you could potentially try to accidentally come across into certain death, like an enemy encounter or something. Well, thankfully, this particular version fixes that, so... Alright, so here we go on to the 6th special stage, and eventually the 7th and the final special stage, and meaning about the fact that we can able to actually, you know, actually access to Super Sonic in the earliest point throughout the whole game, thanks to the forms of that particular, you know, keeping your rings count, you know, after completing the special stage, which, thankfully, is much more forgiving this time around, so as a result, though, well, don't get me wrong, I still managed able to enjoy the original version of the game, but I will say that the 2013 remastered version, in some cases in Sonic Origins, to me it feels like a definitive version of the game just because of all that smooth frame rate in the special stages, as well as more multiplayer options. Well, you're still able to actually access to like some crazy items and stuff, and also you can able to actually play as Knuckles in multiplayer as well. And relatively speaking, you can able to actually access to 8 different zones this time around, because normally in the original version of the game, oh, and also with special stages as well, I think, that usually in the original version, you can only play through 3 different zones, plus special stage. Like, relatively speaking, you can able to play Emerald Hill Zone and Casino Night Zone, as well as the forms of Mystic Cave. whilst compared to the 2013 remastered version on the phone, as well as the forms of, you know, Sonic Origins compilation game, they can now finally play multiplayer in not only in Chemical Plant Zone, but also Aquatic Ruin, as well as Hilltop Zone, and Oil Ocean, and lastly, Metropolis Zone. So, yeah, pretty cool and awesome at the same time, relatively speaking. Although I may be wrong, because I haven't really double-checking it by myself. I mean, the only way you can able to actually access to multiplayer is by simply just selecting the game itself, and then basically it doesn't matter if you can either select it from Classic Mode or Anniversary Mode, and if you do manage to have two controllers with you, then obviously you can enjoy the game in multiplayer at any point. Well, usually on the Switch version, it's possible you can able to actually play in multiplayer with separate Joy-Con controllers, I'm presuming so, and especially noticeable about the fact that what makes the Switch version a bit nicer is that you can play multiplayer on the go, within tabletop mode and everything, so... Anyway, time for the final special stage in the beginning portion of the game. So, expecting that this particular special stage will be a bit tough, as to be expected, because you still need to collect, you know, some more rings and all that stuff. But since that Tails is joined with us during the forms of in story mode, basically though is about the fact that we need to collect rings and combine them into one particular total ring count. So, even then though, that was when essentially how the fact that when Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2 does manage able to bring that concept back with some new gimmicks to it though, you know, with the actual tether, as well as the forms of, you know, the ability to able to run and stuff like that, and chances are though about the fact that, well, I can totally see why people seemed able to give up playing Sonic the Hedgehog 4 duology games now, just because of the lack of originality for the sake of time. Well, I can possibly understand it, so either way though, let's just go ahead and focus right here, just to ensure that I will be able to actually get the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And what makes this nice is that, as I said before, we can no longer go back onto 0 rings every time we complete the special stage, so that's actually a huge plus. So, yeah, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. What do you guys think about Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as a video game? Did you enjoy it? And do you think it's without doubt, your favorite Sonic games you've ever played? I will say, this is without doubt one of the awesome sequels ever, which is especially noticeable about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I can totally see why a lot of people seemed able to really enjoy going back into Sonic the Hedgehog 2 nowadays, especially thanks to the forms of Sonic Origins compilation. So, even every nowadays with the forms of, well, you know what I mean. And there we go, folks, we've completed all of the special stages in one particular zone, and that is, of course, Emerald Hill Zone for the 3rd time. So, either way, though, yeah, I can't believe it's gone pretty swell, I have to say. So, if you managed able to expect that once you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds, then obviously you have the ability to turn into Super Sonic. So, this means you have to able to collect 50 rings in order able to turn into Super Sonic. And since we've got enough, let's go ahead. Okay, my button doesn't seem able to react it on me. Hold on, let me try a different button. Ah, there we go. So yeah, unlike any forms of how it does in the original version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, where basically though, every time whenever you do collect 50 rings, and if you accidentally jump in midair, well, the game automatically allows you to turn into Super Sonic, whilst it can be felt a bit buggy at times, especially noticeable, well, it's even worse when if you complete Act 1, basically you get soft locks, assuming if you're not careful enough to able to jump in midair if you still have 50 rings with you. So, thankfully in this version in particular though, that if you complete Act 1 or Act 2, basically it'll turn back to normal self. So as a result, I'm very appreciated this was fixed, because otherwise, if I was experiencing the original version again, although don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the original version of the game still, but it's just about the fact that you have to be super careful of not to stumble across a soft lock in the game, because otherwise you won't be able to continue, or you're gonna have to able to reset your game, and then you have to start all over at the beginning of the game again, unless if you really want to able to actually access to the level select code. So, either way, that's as far as I can say about it. So here we go, on to the 2nd zone, in this case the most iconic zone in the game, which appears to be by the forms of Chemical Plant Zone, which seriously, by that time, this zone is actually got revisited so many times, ranging from not only in Sonic Generations, but also with the forms of Sonic Forces, and even with certain cyberspace segments in Sonic Frontiers, and I believe also same applies with the forms of the Lego Sonic Dimensions or something, and especially noticeable with Sonic Mania as well. So yeah, I can totally see why a lot of people seem to remember Chemical Plant Zone a lot, so, but either way, that's saying something. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get a lot of momentum right here and grab some more coins for assuming, of course, we're able to actually access the museum mode at some point in the future. And of course, we do somehow manage able to realize that, well, I think there's no point that we can able to actually go back to the special stages in Sonic 2 now because, well, we've got all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Well, technically, there's also the 8th special stage, which I could possibly try to show you guys that until whenever we get onto the extra stuff of the entire Sonic Origins compilation. So, and fundamentally speaking though, is that you guys even remember on joining my Sonic the Hedgehog CD playthrough in Sonic Origins that so far we didn't actually die once in Sonic CD, which is always appreciated on my book, especially because I almost assume I'm almost gonna die from the likes of the Metal Sonic race, but apparently though I didn't seem to do it, because as a result, thankfully I've got enough speed and momentum, and also thanks to the forms of the Drop Dash feature, because thank the Lord Drop Dash is such a god in that particular point. So, oh jeez, that was close, because I almost assumed I've almost gonna lose my shield, but I somehow accidentally turned into Supersonic by mistake, which making this platforming segment, it feels a bit tricky and difficult, but regardless of such though, we did somehow made it regardless. So, and also you have to be very careful on this point with Supersonic because you don't want to get crushed by the forms of those moving blocks. So yeah, good thing we did somehow avoided that. So, and as you can tell, we actually, well, sometimes we managed able to breezily win through certain stages very fast, well, apart from the beginning, just because of obviously collecting Chaos Emeralds might be my key victor right here for able to accomplish something like this, so. And of course, to be expected that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 first came out in 1992, for the Mega Drive / Sega Genesis, which by that time, since we're now in 2023, that's obviously the game has been out for 30 years now. Well, it wasn't until when it gets to the point until this coming November that basically though that this game will be eventually become 31 years old. So yeah, time flies, you know. And on top of all that stuff though, well, relatively speaking though, that this game of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came out after the Game Gear / Master System version, mind you, just because of all that. You know, back in Junior forms have been the Master System and Game Gear versions of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. They obviously get the plot involves around Tails is being kidnapped by the forms of, you know, Dr. Robotnik, so it's up to Sonic to able to rescue him by simply able to collect 6 Chaos Emeralds in each zone, so relatively speaking now, you probably already know what to expect to come, so. Alright, so here we go onto Aquatic Ruin Zone, and this is the, well, one of those 2 levels in the game that does feature underwater elements to it, because I know for a fact that Chemical Plant Zone also has some underwater elements here and there as well. I mean, relatively speaking though, it's actually really easy to avoid a lot of water in this particular level, assuming if you know the level layouts very nicely, so. It looks like I keep on getting some even more coins up to this point. I couldn't imagine about the fact that I was gonna get able to actually reach up for about, I don't know, 999 coins or something like that with the maximum potential. Although, relatively speaking though, that might be on a ghostly forms of the mission mode for, you know, doing multiple challenges and all that stuff though, but either way though, I'll again explain more details about that whenever we get to the forms of the entire mission mode. We're able to accomplish certain tasks and whatever, so. And also I just somehow realized I've been knocked over by that gosh darn drill thing, so either way, we'll just go ahead and grab some more air bubbles, so just in case we're able to survive underwater as much as we possibly can. And of course, to be expected, instead of able to actually have 3 acts, until later on anyway though, basically this game does have 2 acts per zone, which again, it wasn't until later on though that things might be a little bit different. So either way, let's just go ahead and grab the air bubble. Make sure that it doesn't screw me up again, thank you. Unlike the forms of how it does on Lap Room Zone in Sonic 1, I honestly cannot even believe I'm almost potentially gonna get screwed over by the forms of, you know, that air bubble does not spawn in, and something tells me I'm almost gonna get trapped by a whole bunch of flies, so... Although there's a bonus coin monitor right there, so, I mean, surely what's the point about it right now? Well, up until whenever we move on to the final game of this entire compilation, at least for now anyway, though, because you know what I mean about the fact that I've heard some rumors about the fact that they might potentially try to bring out Sonic Origins Plus in the future, thanks to the forms of the Korean rating board. But let's just hope and find out to see what happens there. Especially, they might be able to announce that, possibly by that time, until when, you know what I mean, during at some point in March, whenever they do, like, SXSW panel. And potentially speaking, though, about the fact that, speaking of the forms of certain gaming events, though, or actually I'll get into more details on that during at some point, possibly tomorrow, or anything else like that. So there we go, Aquatic Ruin Zone is completed. Despite the fact that I don't usually have even 3 more bonus coins because I somehow keep on getting hit by, you know, certain enemies and all that stuff. So, alright, onwards to the most iconic zone in the game, which is of course Casino Night Zone, and this is obviously brought back from the likes of the forms of Sonic Generations for the Nintendo 3DS version. So, but either way though, this zone is so cool, especially noticeable because it actually introduced some compulsive gambling. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, in fact, relatively speaking, for those who ever played the PlayStation version, well, it doesn't really matter if it's either 4 or 5, as well as the forms of Xbox One and Xbox Series X/S, that basically there's actually that one achievement you can able to obtain, that is by simply trying to able to get the jackpot in Casino Night Zone. Well, it might not be possible in Act 1, but Act 2 might certainly will be. So either way though, we're able to trying to deal with that once we're able to actually go through those tons of bumpers and all that stuff though, including moving blocks to able to navigate through. And seriously, bumpers, you trying to knock me back? I mean, I've not actually done that much gambling stuff for quite some time in Casino Nights, you see. I mean, geez, I need to get out of here. There we go. Hey, that took a bit of a while to able to actually just get up there, so... Anyways, let's get to the forms of today's discussion when it comes to, like, news, updates, or anything else like that. First of all, unfortunately, OU has been officially delayed until summer this year, which almost first thought, well, that game is usually an ND game after all. So relatively speaking though, that almost first thought is going to be existence until, the upcoming spring for this year. But relatively speaking though, sadly that game is being pushed back until summer this year. So, well, honestly about the fact the matter is though, I don't usually get that much ND stuff these days. I mean, relatively speaking though, about the fact that, well, it seems kind of sucks for some people, but I can totally see why they seemed able to get upset about it whenever they were very looking forward to able to try that game out on the Nintendo Switch, but that's besides the point. And, the next thing I want to mention is that out of nowhere, we actually get ourselves another DLC from the likes of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and this time what appears to be by the forms of, let's just say like an origin story, or to be more specifically, before the events of Dragon Ball Z or something, or generally speaking, it's just, well, it's a bit difficult to explain, because I haven't really watched Dragon Ball Z stuff for a while, so either way, we've got 3 more bonus coins, so we're able to save it up for, you know, potentially more special stages to come, thanks to the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles coming up. So, anyway, so the DLC they somehow managed to showcase off, and that's what appears to be by the forms of Chaos at the World Tournament. So, may look interesting, all things considered, and yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to explain about that particular DLC in mind. So, And let's see if I can try to get 3 jackpots in a row, because otherwise... Oh, wow, 2nd attempt for the slot machine right there. Wow-wee! That's a lot of rings. And now I'll turn into Supersonic afterwards as well. Because I believe something tells me, in addition with the achievement, even on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 and Xbox systems, but there's also another one of those unlockables you can get on the museum mode. So either way though, but again, we'll show it off at some point in the extras video. So either way though, well, it won't be for a little while personally, because obviously we'll just try to make things as fast as humanly possible. So anyway, yeah, let's talk about the forms of the next thing I want to discuss, and that's what appears to be by the forms of, well, there's actually a game that is about to be releasing on the Nintendo Switch at some point in next week, called Dream Park Story. Not exactly sure what that game is about though. Well, mind you, I haven't exactly looked upon that much of ND stuff as much as the next guy personally. But either way though, yeah, I've honestly have no idea why I just almost got my croaky throat all of a sudden. But relatively speaking though, wow, I somehow got stuck on that flipper. In fact, let's just do this by doing absolutely nothing. Or potentially just get stuck by the actual flipper. Wow, that was so easy. Especially since we've got ourselves Supersonic in our hands, so yeah. So, anyway, so I suppose the next thing I want to mention, though, is that, well, honestly, potentially speaking, though, well, thankfully E3 2023 is still happening. Well, it's just a shame that, well, relatively speaking, though, I think I should probably explain more details about that during at some point until tomorrow, because, well, aw, Tails, why are you doing that? Dumb AI sometimes. Just dumb AI. So, Tails, you done it again! Ay ay ay. So, anyway, so... Again, there's not much else I can say. Well, apart from the fact that, well, recently, about that time when this video was actually going to be up during that time, well, we've only got about 2 more days to go until the next Nintendo presentation, and it's usually focused on Pokemon Presents, because obviously we've only got 2 days for that presentation to be up, because thanks to the forms of the Pokemon Day, it's going to be happening until the 27th of February. So yes, we're able to actually see Pokemon Presents in Monday, the 27th of February. Unfortunately, Maxi will not mention about that during the course of the Donkey Kong 64 Let's Play, but I will say that maybe potentially speaking, we can probably mention more about it. Assuming, of course, if I was going to go back onto Sonic Origins, or perhaps even maybe if we're able to actually do another new Let's Play, or another redo Let's Play, or something like this. Well, again, time will tell, because it's especially noticeable about the fact that, well, everyone else is actually starting speculating at the moment, especially concerning about the fact that, well, every other Pokemon fans will be pretty much excited with the forms of that particular presentation in mind. So, either way, let's move on to the next zone in Sonic 2, and that's what appears to be Hilltop Zone. Some people seem to say this is probably one of their least favorite zones in the game, just because it feels like it's blue and it's boring. I mean, relatively speaking though, it's not that bad of a zone to me though, but it's just more likely like a color palette swap from the likes of Emerald Hill Zone. I mean, I can totally see why that some people are not a big fan of this zone, but to me, I don't mind about it too much though. But that's just me. But, yeah, I cannot wait to see how, what's gonna be up next for Pokemon these days. Although, especially noticeable about the fact that maybe potentially they might also be able to mention about, I don't know, DLCs about to be existent from the likes of in Scarlet and Violet, you know, just like it forms of how it does in Sword and Shield. But then again, though, we'll probably mention more about it until whenever we're able to, well, God knows when, because that could be for a little while to able to actually just to get that, you know, some things turned up. So, anyways, Tails, can you do me a favor and take me up? Because that way, it'll make this particular move super useful, especially because unlike the original version of the game, that basically he can't do that because, well, I have no idea why. But yeah, I do apologize for that particular very awkward commentary ever since in the end of Casino Night Zone familiar, but that's only mainly because I've almost choked on something from my throat, so yeah, I do apologize for that, so... Yeah, so far so good, up until Hilltop Zone, Act 1, because of, you know, Tails was actually dumb enough to able to just run on the actual platform without me, so yeah, we'll take Dr. Eggman down very easily with Supersonic, and boom, he's toast. So anyways, I think we're just gonna have to able to end things off this point right here, so join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's, well, relatively speaking in Sonic Origins potentially, we're also finishing up with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.